When we talk about lots of things in our business, we talk about sort of that virtual cycle of enlightened hospitality, and we look at our stakeholders. And as we're talking about our stakeholders, from a profitability standpoint, all of our stakeholders have different expectations as we go through this. So
when we look at all the different stakeholders, first and foremost, the first and most important stakeholder, believe it or not, and this is a little bit backwards to some people, are our colleagues, people that we work with every day, right? We need to make sure that they are set up for success and have the tools that they need, because if they don't, nothing's going to spring from that, right? Obviously, we all know we've been in this situation. You can't be at every table, every night, every lunch, every person, right? So you want to make sure that your colleagues have great training, that they can know and act and do just as you might do when they're at table 72, that they can have fantastic knowledge, because we all know that everybody doesn't come as a finished product. In fact, nobody should, right, come as a finished product. So we want to make sure that that we have realistic expectations of what their knowledge is and that we can provide that for them. And then we give them the support that they need, right? We need to give them the inventory that they need, right? There's nothing worse than when your most popular Pinot Noir is out of stock, right? There's nothing worse than when you run out of your Sauvignon Blanc by the glass at 7:45 on a Saturday night, right? So we need to make sure they have the inventory that they need. How bad is it when you can't get one clean Burgundy glass, right? It's a 5-top, you've got 4, you just need one more, right? So we need to make sure that they have the equipment that they need. And we need to make sure that they can rely on us. We need to make sure that when that Sancerre is in micros, it's in the right price, right? Or Loja, whatever it is that you use. We need to make sure that it's programmed in there for the right price. We need to make sure that if we have a change on the wine list, that it's updated on paper, right? So it's actually there.
And then, when we look at, what success means from a guest standpoint, we all like to, drink DRC and Ravenel like Thomas does every day of the week. So, but not all guests are up for that. So we need to look at the program and make sure that it offers opportunities for them to explore and really appreciate wine as it plays in the whole restaurant, not just for our needs and desires. So that means value, and looking at it and making sure that there's value propositions in every single category throughout the list, and giving them so many options that are so abundant that they need to bring you into the equation to help talk through that. Obviously knowledge, and that's not just your knowledge, but it's the knowledge of your entire teams, and instilling that in that constant quest for knowledge. Menu symbiosis. If you're working at a French restaurant and you have an all-Italian list, does that work? Probably not. So your guests come in with the expectation, great, I'm going to have this amazing classical French menu tonight, and then all you have are great Barolos. That's awesome, they're great Barolos, but does that go with the whole concept? It doesn't, and I think that's when the sum of the parts can be greater when they all click there. And then just lots of options, whether that's by the glass, and always finding a way to find the yes for the guest. I think that's what we really try and instill into our beverage directors.
Great, and then let's take a look at the community next, right? So when you look at the wine and food community, obviously it's a big wine and food world out there. And I think every restaurant, in order to really define themselves as successful, wants to be able to sort of stake their claim in that world, right? So the idea of having great events going on, always interesting wine dinners or promotions or interesting things to catch people's interest and attention, and also a little bit of giving back to the community, right? So whether it be a charitable aspect, or how about just sharing something great with your regulars, to sort of create that community, so that when people walk into the restaurant, they really feel like that restaurant is part of their community. And then vice versa, we need to give them, if we look at them as being part of our community, it'll be a symbiotic relationship.
And I think also when you look at community to me also means the community of us in the restaurant business, and sure, what we're doing to give back in furthering our profession and our peers. And I think all boats rise with the tide. So being able to do something like this, whether it's a tasting group, getting people together and offering some sort of incentive for people to come and explore and appreciate and understand what you're doing at your restaurants, and really opening that door and setting them up for success to just have fun, because we all work hard, and it's nice when you can go and play hard with some of your peers in the industry. On a supplier standpoint, we all have been there when it's like, oh, another supplier just calling on me, and it becomes a hassle. We can't do our job successfully without them, and they can't do their job successfully without us. So when we're looking on that, I think there's a mutual respect, showing up for appointments on time and really standing to, setting them up for success too. So when they're coming in, and let's say you say, hey, just bring me whatever, we'll taste, and they're just pulling all these samples and they're pulling all these Cali cabs, but yet you're looking for a great Sancerre by the glass. Your ship's passing in the night, they're not really speaking the same language. So define to them what you're looking for. It's a better use of their time and your time, and it's going to be much more focused, that interaction. And when they're coming into your business, are you setting them up for success, and making sure that they're perceived that they're doing their job to their higher ups?
When a rep comes in with a winemaker, you want to make them feel like that they're doing a fantastic job and they're the most important table in the room.
Exactly.
Because keep in mind, at the end of the day, when those guys get that 12 bottle allocation of whatever it might be, they can decide who they pick up the phone and call, right? So once you've taken care of your suppliers, once you've taken care of all of these stakeholders, that's when you can then turn to the investors, right? Because in order to turn to the investors and try to drive revenue or control costs or create a good profit margin, if you haven't taken care of anybody above that first, you're really missing out. You don't have as much of a team pulling for you as you possibly could, right? You might have 3 of the 5 or 4 out of the 5 or 2 of the 5 or even 1 out of the 5. If it's just you pushing and you don't have your colleagues or your community or your suppliers behind you, you're not going to be able to make nearly as much headway. So once you have all of that, then as a group, you can really drive that revenue. You can all be on the same page as trying to control costs, know exactly what your by the glass pour is and this, that, and the other thing. And that's what's going to really create your profit margin if that whole group of stakeholders is all pushing in the same direction.